Have you ever heard of an inventor whose work was so disastrous that it literally changed the planet's atmosphere? Well, today we're diving into the wild and frankly terrifying story of Thomas Midgley Jr. He was a genius, no doubt, but his legacy is complicated. And when I say complicated, I mean, listen to this. That quote is from historian J.R. McNeill. He said, Midgley had more adverse impact on the atmosphere than any other single organism in Earth's history. Think about that. Not any other person, any other organism. That's a heavy legacy. So you have to ask, right? Who was this guy? And how on earth could one single person cause that much chaos? To figure that out, we've got to rewind the clock. Let's go back to the Roaring '20s. Cars are taking over, but they have this one really annoying problem. And the man they called in to fix it was a brilliant engineer at General Motors named Thomas Midgley Jr. See, engines had this terrible rattling sound, a knock. It wasn't just annoying. It was literally choking the engine, holding back power and efficiency. The entire auto industry was desperate for a fix. And after trying pretty much everything, Midgley found it, a chemical miracle called tetraethyl lead, or TEL. You add just a little bit of this stuff to gasoline and poof, the knock is gone. It was a total game changer, and it unlocked the door for the powerful engines we still use today. But yeah, about that miracle solution, there was a huge, dark catch. The main ingredient, lead, was a well-known poison, and the company knew it. So what did they do? They got clever with the marketing. They named the new gas additive ethyl. Notice something missing? Yeah, the word lead. It was completely and deliberately left out of all the ads. The consequences were immediate, and they were horrifying. Midgley himself got lead poisoning and had to take time off to recover. At the production plants, things were even worse. Workers started having terrifying hallucinations, going insane. Dozens got sick, and many died. They nicknamed one of the buildings the Looney Gas Building. So, to fight the bad press, Midgley does something just unbelievable. He calls a press conference. And right there, in front of all the reporters, he pours TEL all over his hands and then holds the beaker up to his face and breathes in the fumes for a full minute. He tells them he could do it every day and be perfectly fine. But here's the thing, he knew he was lying. He had already been treated for lead poisoning. This whole stunt was just an act of pure corporate loyalty, a complete denial of a danger he personally understood all too well. You'd think that would be the end of the story, right? A controversial invention, a health crisis. Nope. For Thomas Midgley Jr., this was just Act 1. After he recovered, he turned his brilliant mind to a completely different problem facing American homes. You see, early refrigerators were basically ticking time bombs. They used nasty chemicals like ammonia and propane. If one leaked, it could poison your family or even explode. Everybody was looking for a safer way to keep things cold. And who comes to the rescue? Thomas Midgley. He invents the brand new chemical called Freon. You've probably heard of it. It was part of a class of chemicals called CFCs. And it seemed perfect. It wasn't toxic. It wasn't flammable. It was super stable. It was a dream come true for refrigeration and air conditioning. So for these two inventions, leaded gas and Freon, Midgley became a superstar in the science world. I mean, look at this list. He won every major award in chemistry you could imagine. He was hailed as a hero, a titan of industry. He even became the president of the American Chemical Society. At the absolute peak of his career, Midgley must have felt invincible. But his story was about to take one last, tragic, and deeply ironic twist. When he was just 51, he contracted polio. It left him severely disabled, unable to even get out of bed on his own. But he was an inventor to the very end. So what did he do? He designed this complex system of ropes and pulleys to help lift his body. And then, the final unbelievable irony. One morning, he was found dead in his bed. He had gotten tangled in his own invention, strangled by the very machine he built to give himself freedom. Midgley died a celebrated hero. But the true cost, the absolutely catastrophic legacy of his two greatest inventions, wouldn't be fully understood for decades. First, leaded gasoline. The lead pumped into the air for decades poisoned the entire globe. It's been linked to lower IQs in generations of children, and some studies even connect it to huge spikes in violent crime. Then there's Freon. That safe chemical was quietly floating up into the atmosphere and, well, literally tearing a giant hole in the ozone layer, the planet's shield against the sun's most harmful radiation. So here's a really important way to think about his two massive failures. Leaded gasoline was what we'd call a known unknown. They knew lead was dangerous. They'd known that for centuries. They just either ignored or couldn't comprehend the global scale of the damage they were about to unleash. Freon, though, that was an unknown unknown. In the 1930s, nobody even knew the ozone layer was a thing that could be damaged. The very concept that this miracle chemical could threaten life on Earth was pure science fiction. It's just so mind-boggling, isn't it? The author Bill Bryson put it perfectly. He said that for one guy to be responsible for two such epic disasters, he must have had an instinct for the regrettable that was almost uncanny. And that leaves us with a pretty chilling question to chew on. Midgley's inventions were seen as progress. He was a hero of his time, so it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What are we celebrating today? What miracle technologies and innovations might future generations look back on and condemn? What's the hidden, catastrophic cost of our progress?